I'm Biola Alabi. I run a consulting and production company in Lagos, Nigeria.
And yesterday we were at an event and you were talking about the contrast between two films that have been released in Nigeria about child brides. Tell me about those two films again.
So one of them is Dry, which is produced and directed by Stephanie Linus, who is really one of our amazing actresses and also producers in Nigeria. And the second one was Wives on Strike, which is also written and directed by Amani Oboli, who also produced it. So the two films really address the issue of child brides in Nigeria and the challenges that we're facing addressing that on the continent. But one of the things that happens with the two films is one takes a comedic turn and one is much more of a serious tone. Very, very effective in both of their messages, but different approaches. And I thought it was important to sort of look at the different ways that you can tell the same story or the same message.
So for us, tell us about Dry and then Wives on Strike and give us the guts of the story so we can see the contrast.
Okay. So Dry is really a dramatic story. It is sullen in a way, but it is really the reality of what happens in Nigeria when it comes to child brides and the health issues that children face by being married so young, and also the stigmatization that happens after that if you get sick during childbirth or numerous things. It's an award-winning film. It has won an award, a couple of awards actually already, and it's gone on the festival route. So it's a very different marketing strategy. It's a very different connection with the audience, and it still addresses a very important social issue, and it's making a social impact. However, it's sort of how do you distribute those type of films? How do you reach the intended audience with a film like that? And how do you get people to actually go and see a film like that? And that's really the conversation I wanted us to have around that. While Wives on Strike, it's a comedy about the same issue, and basically a woman goes and tells her husband she would really appreciate if he didn't marry their daughter off at this early age, and he sort of said the decision has been made, she must be married off. And her friends and the women in the neighborhood decide to support her by actually going on strike, which is not having relationships with their husbands. And this sort of becomes a phenomenon in the town, and in this comedic way they're also able to address the same issue. And I think depending on where people are on this sort of continuum of this issue or their awareness of the issue, I think you can be you're much more effective if that's your entryway into dealing with the issue is comedy. And then I feel like Dry is almost more for like the advanced learner on actually what are sort of the fragmented health issues around this and the complexity of this issue. Well, I think Wives on Strike gives you a nice entree in, and Dry is like the real meal of this issue.
It's easier with Wives on Strike to do the social media campaign. Give me some sense of how that works.
I think number one, we keep on evolving and learning more about how to use social media on the continent, and especially in Nigeria where there's such a lively social media community. And I think that one of the things that Wives on Strike did was it had multiple leads, so it was an ensemble cast. And I think with an ensemble cast, sometimes it's just easier because people have different followers and different followings. So that was number one. You were able to connect with multiple audiences by using an ensemble cast. You were able to also create there's much more fun in sort of the memes and the online campaigns you can do and the digital campaigns. And remember, and the humor. And these are the thing about social media is it's like bits and pieces of things that you're just feeding people, and I feel like they're like just like they're much more popcorn moments that you can play around with on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Twitter with comedy. And I think that if you look at the distribution of comedic films in Nigeria and on the continent, they've really had an amazing life on social media, and the audience actually almost owns it on social media before they even go into the theater.